Hello, my name is Gary Moncrief. I am the CEO of FFL Cockpit and Geridium LLC. Um, just as an introduction to myself, I became an FFL about 2.5 years ago in May of 2022. And during that time, I had actually started off using a competitor tool and quickly found out that the automation available and the way things worked in regards to product feeds and fulfillment automation just wasn't what I needed. So I put my IT background to work and ended up building FFL Cockpit, which I'm going to review with you today. Soon after building it to run my website, several other FFL folks that I am friends with had become aware of what tools I made available, and they asked that I make it into a product. And fast forward 2 years later, now we have hundreds of FFLs across the country using our software today. So what I wanted to do today in this overview video is review the two components that we've developed. We have both the FFL Checkout plugin and FFL Cockpit plugin. These are both plugins for WordPress. So our solution works only with WordPress and WooCommerce at the moment. So we can install those plugins and then configure those. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was FFL Checkout. So FFL Checkout is the FFL selector that is made available when you check out with a firearm in your cart on your website. So it's really a critical component to any firearm site. You have some options in here to include your in-store pickup FFL number. If you put your FFL number in here, the users have a quick option to select your FFL. You can change the form location on the checkout page, and you can also set whether or not we show the map on the page or not. Let me show you what that looks like on a real site. This is my site, and this is the FFL selector here. So this particular customer has an Arsenal AK pistol in the cart, so the system knows that that's a firearm and has prompted this component to turn on. So here you can see the message that's all configurable in your system. You can also set in-store pickup, which will quickly go and select your FFL. You can also, if the user comes to your site frequently, they can select the last FFL that they used. But they can also use these controls to search for any FFL within their area, given a certain radius. So we synchronize with the ATF database on a weekly basis. The ATF really only updates their data once a month, but we check it every week just to make sure, and we pull in all those changes. If you see the green dot here, that means we have the FFL document on file. If not, the customer can still select that FFL, but you will just have to attain the FFL document if you're processing an order to be sent to that FFL. So that's pretty much it. Again, the customer would just select the FFL they would like, and the system sets the shipping address to that FFL, and then Cockpit can take that and automatically fulfill a dropship order based on that FFL selected. So the next tool I wanted to talk through is FFL Cockpit. So FFL Cockpit is the product feeds and fulfillment automation process. So this is how we ingest product feeds from every distributor that you would like to use. What you can see on the screen here is all the current distributors that we support. You have the ability to select and remove as many distributors as you wish. So if I just wanted to remove all of my distributors and only use Chattanooga, for example, I could do that. You can use these controls down here to select a new distributor that you want to use. So for example, if I want to add Sports South, I can select Sports South, hit Add Distributor. These toggles activate or deactivate the distributor. You would also have to use these configure links on each of these distributors to be able to enter your credentials. So we have Sports South has an API user, password, and customer number. Chattanooga has an API SID and token. So each one of these are different. So for example, if I pull up RSR, for example, and want to add RSR and activate them. If I click on their configure link, they have two accounts. So they have a main account and a dropship account. These credentials would need to be entered in place so that when Cockpit is placing an order for you, it knows who you are and uses the proper account to place that order. Now once you set up all your distributors, you always have to remember to hit the Save Change button down here. So hitting that Save Change button will go ahead and save the changes, and you'll get this pop-up confirmation. And then once you have all your distributors in place, or as you're working through your distributors and you save the changes, we have this Validate Configuration button down here. Now this will send an email to you telling you whether or not the credentials that you've put in place are good. It'll test all of them with each of the distributors, and then make sure that we're good to go. It'll send an email within about 1 to 3 minutes. It'll also define any other parts of the configuration that may not be correct. So it kind of guides you through completing the configuration. Within each of these distributors, not only do we have the credentials in here, but there's also distributor-specific product restrictions that you can define. So you can define what type of product you want to list from a specific distributor. You can leave them all blank, and that'll basically mean it'll pull in all the product from that distributor. But for example, if you just wanted to pull in firearms from Chattanooga, you can also do that. You can select the product class and select firearms, or you can use categories as well to define specific categories of products that you want to pull in from that distributor. But you can leave all of these blank and then work through your product restrictions by using the main product restrictions tab here, which we'll talk about now. So this product restrictions tab works globally across all of your distributors. So you don't have to mess with the product restrictions at each distributor level if you don't want to. You can set all of your product restrictions right on this tab here. So what do we have here? We have different types of filters to put in place to define what products we want to pull in from your site. So we have cost-based restrictions first. So we have a minimum distributor cost of $8. This means that's your cost. Anything below $8 your cost will not be listed on the site. This is really just to prevent things like bore brushes and screws and small parts that you may not want listed on your site. So you can use those controls to do a cost-based restriction. We also have a quantity-based restriction here. And this is just saying don't pull product in from the distributor unless it has at least one item in stock at the distributor level. On the right side, this allows you to filter product based on product classes, categories, brands, SKUs, or UPCs. You can see we have includes and excludes here. So for example, if I want to just include firearms on my site, I can use product classes for that. And I just select firearms and say that means that we'll only include firearms on the site now. Now if this was blank like the default, this means we'll pull in all product because there's no filters in place. No filters means all product. But once we start putting in filters like firearms, for example, now that means if we save this, only firearms will be included on your site. Now, if we also wanted to include firearms from a specific brands only, you can hit select on the brands and select all the brands that you would like to include. You can also use a enter search term here. This allows you to quickly search for different types of brands, and it brings those to the top of the list so you can select those as well. So in this case, this site will only pull in firearms that are within these brands. So if I clear this out again, show another example. So maybe I just want to include specific categories of products, or maybe rather I want to include everything except for specific categories of products, right? So we can use the excludes. We can decide what products we want to exclude. So maybe we don't want to sell primers, for example, because they're hazardous shipping. So we can say reloading primers. We don't want to sell primers. So it'll do everything except for the category of reloading primers. Similar for brands, you can exclude brands. Our default configuration actually has a list of brands in here, and those brands are in there because they don't allow drop shipping. So that's all based on your preference. If you don't mind getting things shipped locally first, you can do that. You'll just have to reship it out to the customer once you receive it. That's what certain brands like Smith & Wesson, Glock, FN, others don't allow direct shipping from the distributor to the customer's FFL. You'll have to get those items shipped locally first and then reship it out to the customer. Now, if you want to exclude those brands so you can become more of a dropship only operation, you can do that as well by putting those brands in the exclude list. Now, say for example, I want to sell firearms, so I can select firearms product class, but I also want to sell maybe specific a brand of accessory product, right? So let me think of something. So maybe we want to look at specific archery products, for example. So if I want to include firearms and the archery products, doing this right now would actually list no products on your site because nothing matches both firearms and elite archery brand, right? There's no such product that matches both. And that's what these controls here are for. So these and or controls allow you to change the way the logic is set. So if I select or, it's basically going to say list all firearms or anything with the elite archery brand. And that's how these functions are used. I define some of this in the documentation that it's included over here on the left. So make sure to read that. And that's the same thing with all the SKUs, UPCs. You can use these and or controls and include and exclude to really refine what type of product you want listed on the site. I think that's it about product restrictions. Let's move on to targets. So targets is where we place product on your site. By default, when you would come in here, your configuration would just have WooCommerce, which is your website. You can click on the configure link here and put in your website address. We also have settings in here for removing out of stock product. That's by default off. Automated fulfillment, that's also defaulted to be off. When this is on, Cockpit will automatically place orders for you with the distributor. So if that's something that you want Cockpit to do, I'd recommend turning that on. And there's some other options in here as well. And then you can also set product restrictions at the target level. So that's an option as well. But if you want to add other targets, you can select those targets from this list. And again, these are different marketplaces that Cockpit supports to send product to. So currently we support AmmoSeek, Gun.Deals, WikiArms, GunBroker, Liberty Gun Trader. Now some of these require subscriptions. You have to pay these sites to list product on their site, but what we'll do is we'll create the XML feed that you provide them, and we'll update that feed on a continuous basis. GunBroker, they don't require any fees up front, but we can list thousands of products on their site and manage those products, and as you sell them, then they charge you your fee as a percentage of those fees. So each of these has a configure link with some embedded help documentation on how to set up. So for GunBroker, for example, you have to put in your username, password, your zip code, your GunBroker standard text ID, which is a link to your terms and service basically. And there's instructions within here on how to set those things up and how to get the information you need to set it up. This next tab, pricing. So this is how you set the margin on all the products on your site that Cockpit lists. On the left-hand side, we have core pricing assumptions. So we have a default margin of 20% in this case, so this is the decimal format of a percentage. We also have a default margin of $0. These are inclusive of each other, so if you want to make 20% plus $5 on every item you sell, you can do that. If you want to make $10 on every item you sell, you can do something like that. So just know that those add together. You can also do rounding, round to the nearest dollar, round up to 99 cents, no rounding. We have a feature that allows you to include the credit card fees in the price of the product. When this is on, it uses these assumptions here to determine what the credit card fees are, and then incorporates that into the price of the product. Map compliance is also automated with the system, so depending on your margin settings, we'll calculate the price, and if that falls below the map price, we'll bump that price up to the map to stay within compliance. Now, we source our map pricing across all of the distributors that we connect to because distributors notoriously have bad map data. So we'll do a statistical analysis across the 16 plus distributors that we now support and see what's the most appropriate map price for every product in the system and use that. We also have this feature, ignore margin when setting map. So if this is toggled on, it'll basically set the price to map no matter what your margin settings are. Some folks like doing that because some brands you're not going to sell unless you're selling at map. So that's why that option is available for you. Now, we also have the ability to ignore map for certain brands. So for example, if a company is having a map holiday, you can select those brands in this list, one to many brands, and then at that point, the map price will not be applied for those brands. Now down here we have price-based margin. This is kind of a tiered pricing level. So based on your cost, you can set different levels of margins based on the cost of the item. So for example, if you wanted from $0 to $1,000, you want to make 25%, you can do that. And then you could add another tier saying, from 1,000 to 2,000, I want to make 15%, et cetera, et cetera. You could build this out however big you want. So it gives you that option. So these are all kind of like the default settings. On the right-hand side, this is where we can set margins for a specific type of product. So in this example, we have a couple margin categories already set up, one for firearms, one for dropship items. We can open up this firearms example, and we can see that we use these filters here on product class, category, brand, SKU, and UPC to determine what type of product is matching up for this margin group. So in this case, we use the product class of firearms and said for the product class of firearms, I want to set a 15% margin. But you can also get more granular in here and add a new margin group and say Glock firearms, for example. In this case, I still want to use the product class of firearms, but I also want to apply a filter for brand. So I can do that here and say, for Glock firearms, maybe I want to make $50 for every Glock I sell. So you can do that. Same thing with like accessories or ammunition. It doesn't matter what you name these things. What's important is that you use these filters to tell Cockpit what ammunition means. Again, so in this case, we can again use the product class and select ammunition and say for ammunition, maybe let's do 25%. So you can create as many of these categories as you wish. And when Cockpit prices a product, it checks to see if it matches any of these categories, and it'll apply that margin. If not, it falls back to the default margin of 20% in this case. So the next tab here is notifications. So this is where you set up the email notifications on the system. Here you have the ability to set the email for Cockpit system notifications. So this is important. This has to be an email that you constantly monitor for any updates from Cockpit. So for example, an example update would be if we submitted an order to one of your distributors like Lipsy's or Xander's, for example, we'll send an email confirming whether or not that dropship order was made successfully. We also have reports that are sent that would go to this email. So you would enter that email and hit save. This email over here is the email that's used to send updates to your customers. So as a customer places an order, the order goes through a life cycle, and each parts of those life cycle, you'll send a different message. Like for example, when the order is processed, when the order is shipped, when the order is delivered. Each of those has a template that's defined down here. So this is the email that those emails are sent from. So it could be the same email. It could be a different email, like your sales email. But it's important that, again, this is a real email inbox, because we will have to send we will have to send an email to this, and we have a confirmation process. So once you change this email, you'll get a couple emails from us. One from Amazon Web Services that has a confirmation link included in it, and that confirmation link approves FFL Cockpit to send notifications to your customers on your behalf using this email. So anytime you change this, it's very important that you find that Amazon Web Services email that will be sent and click on the approve link. So in regards to the email templates, so we have our order process template here. So we have a subject that you can change. We also have an FFL order template and a non-FFL order template. This allows you to change the language if the order is going to the customer's selected FFL or not. We also have an order ship template here, where you can see we have embedded the tracking information. So Cockpit will automatically ping all the distributors as your orders are monitored and check for tracking updates. And when we get those tracking updates, we'll send those automatically to your customer using these email templates. So keep everything that's in brackets, like the tracking number and the customer first name, but you can change everything else in this template. And you can even embed images or do HTML code to make them as fancy as you want. So sky's the limit on that. We also have an email template on order delivered, and also FFL document request template. So this is if we don't have the FFL document on file when we place the order, we can send an email to the customer asking that they reach out to their FFL and have them send you a copy. So that will be sent automatically as well in those cases. This next tab, store location. So this is where you would plug in your FFL information, your phone number, all of the stuff about your business here. And this information is used primarily for ship to store orders. So if we have to place a ship to store order, some distributors require this information to be passed through, so we put this information here for you to provide it to us. The advanced tab. The advanced tab is basically it's where you can set up additional information or configuration items. Most of the important stuff is brought out to the outside tabs here, so you really rarely have to go into the advanced tab unless you need to. But you're free to poke around in there and see what extra settings might be useful for you. You can see in this case when you type in something wrong, like in this case it throws up errors at the top. Fulfillment ship to store phone number should be a number. So in this case I have to type in, it's asking me to type in a number, so the error goes away. So that's pretty much all there is to the configuration. When you first get signed up, your two major homework assignments are add the distributors and make sure all those credentials are configured in the system. Hit save changes and make sure that you're running the validate configuration down here to make sure that everything works and everything's in good working order for the configuration. And then we should be good to go to start loading product after that point. The next major homework assignment is to work on all your email templates and make sure that those are set up properly to how you need them to be. So that's all I wanted to talk about on the configuration side. We can kind of run through some of these other features that we have in the plugin. So this product feed, for example, this product feed is a research tool. It allows you to search catalogs. It'll search all the configured catalogs that you have in your distributors tab and allow you to type in any search term, like whether it's the brand name or whether it's a UPC or an MPN number, and it'll search the system and find products that match that. So for example, if I wanted to plug in a UPC code, I could do that as well and see from all the distributors I have configured where that product's available. In this case, it's available from both Chattanooga and Sport South. You can click on these pictures to see more details. You can see the cost. This is your cost. This is your shipping cost based on the drop shipping policies. This is the total overall cost and the map price as well. So it's a real quick, easy way to search the catalogs without having to go to everybody's website to see what the quantity available is, for example, and the cost. This next tab, fulfillment. So this shows all the orders that have been fulfilled by Cockpit. We do have the ability to fulfill orders automatically for both your website-based orders as well as Gunbroker. These happen to be my orders that I've kind of anonymized for this demo. But we can see here where the order was sourced from, what the order numbers are. You can click on these to get to the individual order numbers. And then we can see what distributor was used to fulfill that order. And then these links here, these are the distributor order numbers that we get back when we place the order, and they become links that link out to the individual websites on like Chattanooga's website, for example. We can see the status of the order. We can see the customer information here. We can see when it was ordered, when it was shipped, and then we can also see the status of the shipping. And all of these are clickable, and you can get to the individual tracking pages here to see the status of the updates here. So we will track the packages all the way up until they get delivered. This logs tab here, this shows all the activity that's happening behind the scenes. I'm currently on my test site here, but you'll be able to see a log file of product updates and pricing changes. It's really kind of the behind the scenes sausage making component here. So it's not something you need to look at, but just know that it's there. We will update the product on your site every 20 minutes. So we'll pull data from distributors every 20 minutes and make sure that that product's synchronized. This Help Center link here, this provides a couple videos, one of which I'm making right now, which is this overview video. But we also have this Help Center link here. So this Help Center will go to my website and basically give you a way to look at different articles in this case. And each one of these are clickable, and then you can look at different articles on how to do shipping setup, for example, how to do other things. So this is a nice resource as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much all there is to it, to the configuration. The next thing I wanted to show you is the ordering system. The next section I wanted to talk about is orders. So once you start getting orders on your website, in WooCommerce, they'll appear in the left menu bar under WooCommerce orders, and then when you select on a specific order, you can go into the details of that order and see what a customer ordered. In this case, they ordered a Cimarron 1873 long-range rifle. FFL Cockpit will add these two sections here. This first section is the FFL information. So this is the FFL selected at the checkout. You do have the option to change the FFL if you needed to. You can also do an ATF easy check with one click, make sure they're still okay. Cockpit will do an automated easy check before any automated order it places as well. You can also download the FFL if we have it on file. If not, there'll be an upload button. Down here, you can see the different options that are available for this order. In this case, this shows the fulfillment options that are available. There are currently no items available at distributors for this particular product. So when you see no fulfillment options available, it's likely because they all went out of stock. And then in this case, this shows the distributor order that was placed automatically. So the item was in stock at Xander's when this order was placed. And so we can see the status of the order and everything in here. Here's another example of an order for items that are still in stock. So this is ammo, this is ammunition order in this example. You see that the fulfillment options available for this particular product, which is the Sierra ammunition. It's currently available at RSR, Chattanooga, and Xander's. And you can see the pricings of those different options that are available, all the same UPC code here. And then you can see what distributor order was placed. So typically, when Cockpit is processing an order, it has an optimization algorithm that determines what combination of products will result in the least overall cost fulfillment option for you. In this case, it's only one product, but we'll do automatic splitting of orders. So we'll create firearms and accessory orders as separate orders. We'll also look at each distributor that's available for every order and determine what's the best combination of products to purchase. So in this case, the automation was on and decided to select RSR as the most cost-effective option. And typically, under each of these line items and each of the options available, the cheapest one available will usually be at the top. So you can see here that the total overall cost to fulfill this order was cheapest from RSR, so Cockpit selected that option. Now, if, for example, the automation was off, or maybe you had some other exception, like the distributor failed to place an order and you had to come in and retry it, you can use these controls on the right to select which items you want to order. You can adjust the quantities as needed, and then you can use these buttons here to either create the order, ship to store, or create the order dropship. So for example, if someone orders a Glock firearm on your site and Glock doesn't allow dropshipping, we'll still attempt the dropship order. You'll get an email notification saying that the order failed, at which point you would come back into this order detail view, select the item you wanted to order, and then hit ship to store. And then, as you hit these buttons, those options will then appear down here after the order is created successfully. And again, you'll get email notifications whether the order was successful or not. Anyway, that's all I wanted to show on the ordering details view. So thank you.